Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast, recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments, the space where we don't just talk about mindset, we interrogate what's underneath it. Let me start here. Many of you are doing well on paper. You're high functioning, you're capable, you're ambitious, and yet you feel emotionally tired, internally disconnected, or like you're carrying a weight you can't quite name. That weight often isn't laziness. It isn't a lack of strategy, and it's definitely not a lack of motivation. It might be silent trauma. According to the CDC, nearly 60% of adults report at least one adverse childhood experience. Yet most people don't identify as traumatized. They identify as stressed, overworked, anxious, burned out, or stuck in patterns they can't explain. Today's conversation is about the trauma no one talks about and how it quietly shapes identity, leadership, relationships, and ultimately your levels of success. My guest today is Dr. Shahrzad Jalali, a clinical psychologist, trauma specialist, and founder of Align Remedy, and the author of a book, The Fire That Makes Us. Dr. Jalali's work sits at the intersection of psychology, nervous system regulation, identity healing, and lived experiences. She doesn't just study trauma. She understands how it lives in the body, the mind, and the choices we make a long time after the traumatizing event. Her approach blends science with humanity, structure with compassion, and that's exactly why this conversation matters. So pull up a chair, get a beverage if you need one, get someone in and share this with someone even before you dig in, because I promise you, it's going to unleash a level of healing that your mind has been craving and your body is dying for. Dr. Jalali, welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. We're so happy and absolutely honored to have this time with you today. Please tell us who you are in your own words and what you do and why you do it.
Thank you for having me. The pleasure is all mine. As you so beautifully introduced me, I am a clinical psychologist based in Newport Beach, California, and offer all sorts of services to individuals who are seeking to understand themselves a little bit better and go more in depth and self-reflection regarding their life path, their story, why they do what they do, and why they can't seem to redirect themselves in the path that feels more suitable for them.
I love it. First of all, congratulations on everything that you're doing. So let's
Appreciate it.
ground this conversation first. When people hear the word trauma, they often think of extreme catastrophic events. But you
Yes.
talk about silent trauma that goes unnamed, unseen, and obviously untreated. How do you define silent trauma and why does it show up so often in high functioning adults?
Well, let me respond to that by giving you an example.
Mhm.
Whatever like life experience we each have becomes our reality.
Mm.
So let's say I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of yelling and screaming and fighting. If you ask me what a family is, that's an image that pops up for me, not necessarily a family that's close knit or supportive or loving and kind, right?
Mhm.
So in my reality, in my worldview, in my mental script, my lived experience is reality.
Mm.
And I go through life envisioning that this is how it's supposed to be because rightfully so, that is my experience with it. Unless this belief system at one point gets interrupted. Let's say I get introduced to a different story, and now I want to take a step back and say, wait a second, can this look different? And if so, Why is it that my experience with it is so negative, whereas somebody else has a better experience with this notion of family,
Mm.
for example? So I gave you that example to make a point that most of us just see the world through the lens that was given to us,
Right.
just by luck, by birth, by circumstances. As such, we don't necessarily see anything wrong with that because it's our lived experience and it's our truth and our reality.
Mhm.
The only way we would come to view it from a different lens is if we gain knowledge around that notion
Mhm.
and we realize there's another way to do this. That's the main reason why most of us don't necessarily relate to the word trauma, because when we hear it, we think, oh, a major car accident or someone dying or someone getting murdered. Whereas these are, yes, very big traumas, but growing up with a parent that was depressed is trauma.
Yeah.
Growing up with a parent that was not fully present is trauma.
Mm.
Growing up with a parent that was working the entire time you were a child is trauma. Not being seen is trauma.
Yes.
But because it becomes our reality, we no longer see it as such.
Mm. Mm. Exactly. Because it no longer becomes our reality, we no longer see it as such. To someone who's carrying burn scars from maybe getting acid burn or going, surviving a fire, and we can see those scars, we would think, oh, we know they had a catastrophic traumatic event. But those silent scars from an absent parent or a parent who suffered with a mental illness, we act like it doesn't exist. So many of our listeners are leaders, entrepreneurs, caregivers, and achievers. They don't see themselves, like you said, as traumatized. They see themselves as responsible. How does silent trauma disguise itself as ambition, people pleasing, perfectionism, or just an emotional shutdown after all? And man, I learned this the hard way, but who better to tell us but a psychologist? A psychologist. So go for it, doc.
I love that question because I deal with it a lot on a daily basis.
Yes.
Let's start talking about it from this perspective.
Mhm.
There is nothing in the psyche that is not in some shape or form a compensatory response to the totality of the human psyche. What do I mean by that? Let's say I am feeling very out of control in my life because I'm dealing with unforeseen circumstances that are not within my control. Because I feel that way, I tend to intensify my control over the things that I can.
Mhm.
For example, my eating, for example, my working hours, for example, my exercising, my relationships, right?
Mhm.
So I come across as what others would describe as controlling because the psyche is trying to compensate for the lack of control I feel underneath somehow. So
Mhm.
nothing in the psyche happens in a vacuum for no reason.
Right.
Now, our society plays a lot of value in success as we define it. And success is a person that has done really well in one aspect of their life. Now, when you think about it, for you to become very good in one thing, take an athlete, for example, for you to become the number one athlete in your field of work, what that means is you probably practice 10 hours a day for many, many years.
Mhm.
So what that means is that came at the expense of something
Come
else. Now,
on.
does anyone ever talk about that something else? No, because we just want to value the hard work this person has put in, rightfully so, but nothing comes without a price.
Come on. Mm.
Now, success as we define it in society or in our everyday lives these days is essentially the overcompensation of the psyche to achieve something because there was a void in the structure to begin with.
Whoa. Let's take a deep breath here. Come on, doc. Ooh.
Well, we don't like to think about it that way, right? Because once we get to that level of success, now the psyche goes into this narcissistic praisal mode where, look what
Uh,
I've done. Good job to me,
Amazing.
right?
Yes.
And then obviously the rest of society starts to fall into that trap, and it just makes our ego bigger and bigger and takes us away from our true journey.
Mm,
By the way, I'm not saying this to disregard any kind of success
not
that
at
anyone has
all.
achieved.
Yeah.
I understand there's a lot of hard work behind
Yes.
it. I just want people to understand the psychological, kind of price of achievement.
And so, as usual and as normal on the podcast, when I can't find anyone, I find myself. If we can scenario through my own journey. And so, this is what's coming up for me. I remember about 5 years ago, no, it's about four. I went through a very traumatic experience where over my
I'm sorry.
life, I suffered with a condition that caused me to um, I, when I would have my menstrual, that I would over bleed. And so
Mhm.
they did everything. They treat me with medication and all of the things. They done surgeries to reduce the bleeding, and they just it couldn't help anymore. My blood count was at 6.2 and I could not boost it up because while they're giving me blood, I keep losing the blood. And so I needed surgery to help me at this time, and this surgery was not going to be more of the same. It was going to remove my uterus. And so I'm being
Mhm.
very open and trigger warning. It might be for some people, but I believe this is going to bring some perspective to what you just explained. And so I had to let my uterus go in order to save my life. That was my medical options. I didn't like it. I still wanted to have children. At the time, I was about
Mhm.
41 years old, or maybe I was even 40. I don't quite remember, but it was just about 4 to 5 years ago. And so I made the decision and I chose to live because I was either die or do this surgery. They didn't have much options, is what they gave me. And I remember just while in the healing process, it took about 4 months to be where I was okay to do work and things, and then about 6 to be really able to work out, and then another year
Mhm.
before I was able to do sit-ups. It was very tough, and I'd lost weight and gained a bunch of weight. Very traumatic experience for me, but mentally, I was in a space where I thought, okay, now I'm not going to have children. I had to give that up entirely this time. And so I said to myself and my family, I may not be able to give birth to children, but I will give birth to possibilities. And this is why I work as hard as I do on my purpose, on my mission. And that I was laying there in recovery about just weeks after, and I won an award that was uh, Entrepreneurial Woman of the Year award, I think is what that's what.
Wow.
But it's a big one for me because I won a lot of international awards, and this one was US based, and it was quite a process. And I was excited for that. And I guess in that moment, it was a level of validation for all that I've accomplished. And that's when those words came. However, along my journey, as I continue to heal, I looked at that as a traumatic experience. So, my
Mhm.
higher learning, I knew it was traumatic to have to go through that. But then later I realized I had a trauma response in my very well said, because when people hear me say, I will not give birth to possibilities, but I would not, may not give birth to children, but I would give birth to possibilities for the millions of children and youth around the globe, right? Sounds so good. And it is good. I love it. I haven't changed, but I had to understand I was going to do an overcompensation. So while that is a good thing to do, understand the pivoting and the mindset behind, oh, it happened, but I have to move on. I must move through. I must continue to do what I was put as her to do. I have to watch what you just told us, that my response does not become an overcompensation to where I work myself to pieces and rags and not become a whole person. I did that for a minute and then I caught myself. If you can
Mm.
respond to that, is this what you're describing about high achievers and how sometimes we work?
Absolutely. First of all, let me start by saying I'm so sorry for your loss. I can imagine how difficult that journey must have been for you.
Yes.
Um, I'm so glad you're healthy and well. But as you so beautifully put it, it came at a price. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I want to take you to a functional level, because I think you gave a beautiful example to explain this. Mothering is a function. I mean, it's something that you do. You give birth and you raise a child. And I think all women inherently want to experience that.
Yes.
It must be a beautiful journey. But at the end of the day, for you to become a mother, you have to adapt that functionality. Now, what is the functionality? To care, to nurture, to produce, to essentially help raise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you notice that functionality was getting taken away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And your psyche compensated by saying, well, if I can't be a mother myself, I'm going to be a mother to all these children around the world. And this is how I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that journey is beautiful. And I think you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
The only part that you're missing that sounds like you found out and put together afterwards is you want to take that function in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
Mothering isn't just pushing through and raising and making, it's also being loving, compassion, kindness. And you realize that you were just going straight forward on one direction of that
Yes.
function initially because it was a trauma response. But
Right.
afterwards, when you were able to look at the process fully, now you can go about it in a more well rounded way.
You absolutely described it. And I just love it's funny because, as a person who is always pursuing the psychological pieces and understanding of life and also coupling it with healing myself,
Mhm.
especially, it starts with me. That is where Mindset Mastery Moments came from. It's all the moments of me mastering my mindset. And then now all the tools that you amazing humans join with me and bring to the platform. But exactly that, and it's evolving as I continue. And so I released the construct of what mothering traditionally looked like for me,
Okay.
based on, like you said earlier, what I saw growing up, to mothering being what it is and how my life unfolds with it. So it's not taken, it's just defined differently.
Transformed. Um, I love how you're depicting this because I think you mentioned my book, The Fire That Makes Us, and I think
Yes.
that's the gist of the message of the book that none of us control our life journey.
Ooh.
Obviously, all of us want to be born into perfect families, healthy life paths. Unfortunately, as a psychologist, I've come to realize that 99.9% of the people in the world aren't as lucky to go through life without some love disturbance at one point or other, right?
Mhm.
So then what happens when our journey does not line up with our desire? Does this mean we're doomed
Mm.
and this is it and there's no way to recover from that? Or is there a way to re-narrate this structure
Ooh.
to put us back in our sense of agency again? And that's all the book is actually about because I have seen too many people go through this suffering of loss in one shape or form, whether it's your identity, your country, your life goals, your, whatever desire it is that you had, a relationship loss. And it feels like this is it. I didn't get what I wanted. It's not fair. I'm the victim of life. And what happens now? A lot can happen. This is
Yes.
not the end of your journey. It's just the
It's
beginning.
just the beginning. I had a guest on earlier today that says instead of looking at it as something that stopped, is looking at it as something that opens up, but it's a choice. And so let's talk a little bit about trauma identity and that performance. One of the things you say that really stood out to me is the idea that trauma is never just an event, it becomes a pattern. Let's talk about identity. How does
Mhm.
unresolved trauma quietly shape? How do people see themselves and what they believe they deserve and how far they allow themselves to go?
Trauma leads you with a belief. Okay,
Mm.
let's say up until that moment where you went through that traumatic event, you thought the world was a safe place and I am okay.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that happens, the moment your body gives up on you and you're fighting for your life and you're going through this severe trauma, your belief system about the world changes.
Yes.
Now the world is no longer a safe place.
Yes.
right? Even though you survive that dynamic, going forward, your belief system is forever changed. So you don't go through life responding to life the way you were responding before.
Mm.
Now you are treading with caution. You're continuously waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe you're, making decisions based on this particular event versus your initial true take on the world,
Mhm.
which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense that now you're more prepared for life and, you're potentially going through life um, with a more well rounded perspective. It's a bad thing because you're not really responding to phenomena
Mhm.
for the phenomena sake.
Right.
You're responding to phenomena based on your trauma,
Yes.
which is hypervigilance, for example,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
So we want to keep the overall message, which, yes, bad things can happen to good people all the time. So I have to be very cautious as I go through life.
Mhm.
But we want to respond to life as we would genuinely respond to life, not based on our wounding.
Yes, exactly. And that is a mindset that you have to work on mastering. Because, and this is what I say, I was having this, and I would love to hear your thought. I was having a deep conversation with someone close to me about using pain as a fuel. And I am still on the fence with my limited psychological, I say limited psychological awareness, my spiritual awareness, and just what my instinct and my body says to that. So we're talking about maybe you worked with, you and I worked together, Doc. We worked in the same department. You were my supervisor, and you just were someone who tried to keep me small, cut me down, ultimately just riding me, micromanaging me. You never saw my true talent. You never allowed me the opportunity to grow and arise to leadership in our department. And then ultimately you just fired me. You just let me lose my job after serving for 3 years. And so, I mean, for all rights and purpose in this story, you really are a bad guy, Dr. Jalali. You did
I
wrong
am.
by me, right? It's not made up in my head. You really, it on paper, if we
Correct.
looked at it, it is. And so we can say, yes, Alisa, yes, she did traumatize you, she did hurt you, she did cause you pain. So when I walk away from this situation, I'm hurt, and I say to myself, I am going to show Dr. Jalali that I am worth more than what she thinks that I am worth. I am going to prove to her that I am not the silly, worthless person that she thinks I am. And so now my pivot is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to work at another company. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. Or I start my own company, and everything I do, I keep thinking about proving my point to Dr. Jalali every day. And yes, I do become successful at it. I start a multi-million dollar company, and in a year I'm grossing multi-million. I have 10 people working for me. They're doing well in life. Ha ha ha. Dr. Doll, do you see me? But then I sit over there and I'm still thinking, I feel empty. I still feel like, I broke, in that journey, I got a divorce. The mother, I don't see my children. My mother is sick and in a home, and I don't even go see her. And I just still feel empty. But you know what? I got back to Dr. Jalali. That's the one thing I'm happy. Is it true that we can use the pain as fuel? What do you have to say about that?
Yes, that's a great example. We can use pain as fuel. In fact, I think most of our achievements, most of everything that we go through in life is essentially fueled by something, whether it was not having something to begin with, the desire to have it, having lost it in some shape or form, or whatever the underlying notion is,
Mm-hmm.
right? But here's the thing, this is the difference between someone who self reflects and someone who doesn't.
Mm,
You, as a person in that situation, can say, okay, I know I'm valuable. Clearly, this person doesn't see my value and they're undermining my value. And if I continue to stay here, they're going to continue to do the same thing to me.
mm-hmm.
So I will follow my true journey. If this person isn't aligned with my true journey, that means I have to deviate from them and go after my true journey. So your reactiveness isn't towards me. You are taking the path of least resistance through your life. If it happens through me as your boss, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't, that means you have to pivot and go a different way, right? In that way, because you are the director of your own psyche, because it's not a reactive response to other phenomena. Yeah, you feel the pain, you're like, I'm not going to go further. I'm not going to hurt myself more. I'm just going to go this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the pain is the fuel, but not your reactivity to the pain. Your response to the pain is the fuel here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go down your path, and because it's not a reactive response, you're very mindful. You still go see your mom. You still spend time with your kids. You potentially even save your marriage. Maybe your company isn't as big as, the other path, but your whole life is more well-rounded at
Because
this
you
point, right?
took the thing out that just made it a mess, which is Dr. Jalali.
Exactly. Exactly, right? But not in a reactive, like, I'm going to show you. No, I'm going to do what's best for me.
Right,
This is the difference.
right.
The difference is between reaction and response. We want to get to a point that we are responding to our lives.
Ooh, responding to our lives and not reacting. It doesn't get any better.
Exactly.
You guys can go home now. We did it. We did the work here. So, then follow-up question to that, Dr. J. Why do so many people keep working harder, changing strategies, chasing goals, stacking credentials when really, the block isn't effort, it's unhealed identity wounds? Talk to us about that.
Our nervous system, to put it very simply,
Mm.
to wrap up everything that we've been discussing, our worldview, our world script, impacts our nervous system.
Mm.
And if our nervous system is running on freeze or fight or flight, or we're being super hyper vigilant, we don't even internalize the message. It just tells us, go do this, go do this, go do this. And we just go do those things with, like, on autopilot. We don't even enjoy them. They become like, we won this award, we win it the next day, it's on the counter, and we're running towards the next, right?
Mhm.
Because our nervous system can't go into relaxation. It can go into being. It's simply on doing. So
Yeah.
we have to reset however this has been programmed to function this way, go back to a more um, being state of mind where we are doing things that feel good to us, not to check a
Mm.
box. And when we're in our bodies and we're really living those moments and enjoying them, maybe we don't even win that award, but just because we've done that journey, it feels so good to us that, we don't even need that award to show anyone. Now, we may win it in the process, and that's even the creme de la creme, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But the point is, we are in satisfaction with ourselves. I cannot tell you how many people over the years have sat across from me that when I looked at their resume, or when I looked at, what they brought to the therapy room, I was like, oh my God, I'm so impressed. I feel like I'm in the presence of,
Oh,
royalty with
yeah.
all your
Yes.
accomplishments. And they're like, really? I don't feel that way.
Y-
I feel lost. I feel empty. I feel like I'm a failure. I feel like my life is running by me and I haven't really done anything. It's that felt sense that's important at the end of the day.
Yes. So powerful. Wow. This brings me, you introduced the nervous system. And so one of the things as a mindset coach, neurolinguistic practitioner, and just someone who just loves humans and want to see people win regardless. One of the things I don't tell people is just change your mindset. Even if anyone just listens through my work, you will never hear me say just change your mindset. This is why I talk about healing first, getting clear on your purpose, shifting limiting beliefs, and then creating a roadmap to your abundant life. That is literally how my work is done. So I'm always going to go back. Healing, right? So I want to challenge something we hear consistently in the personal development space, which I choose to unsubscribe to a long time, which is just change your mindset. But mindset doesn't exist in isolation. nervous system has a contribution to it. So how does
Absolutely.
nervous system dysregulation keep people stuck even when they intellectually know better?
First of all, if people could change their mindsets, they wouldn't need somebody to tell them to change it, right? They would.
Come on.
I wish it was as
Someone would
simple
do
as
it. That is, come on, talk about that. That's a mic drop.
sometimes example. I feel like examples work better. I want to lose weight.
Mhm.
I know I have to diet and I exercise. It's as simple as that.
Right.
I have to work out and I have to eat well.
Less
So,
in, more out. Quality in, quality out.
exactly. So then I tell myself starting tomorrow, I'm going to cut sugar, I'm going to cut carbs, I'm going to hit the gym. Wake up first thing in the morning, I have a donut. And as I am picking up the donut, I'm telling myself,
I know I shouldn't be
what
eating it.
is wrong with you? You were going to diet.
Yes.
I can't believe you're doing this again. And then all that negative self critic, mindset comes up for me again.
Yes.
Right? So clearly, I mean, everything aside, I don't want to go into the organic component of it. There could be a lot of hormonal imbalances, supplement imbalances, different things, blood sugar issues in the body that are causing me to eat a certain way. But if
Mhm.
I were to put the body aside and just focus on the mind for a second, I am trying to regulate myself.
Yes.
I'm trying to regulate my emotions. And because I have no better means to do it, I go to the thing that my brain has learned that works, which is donuts.
Right, sugar. Come on.
So, exactly. So, how can I be mad at myself for doing something that my psyche, my brain, my prefrontal cortex even is telling me this has worked in the past? Go ahead and do it again. It will work again. And it probably will work
Yes.
because, the brain will get a little bit of sugar and then it will, starts feeling better until it has the crash again, right?
Right, then my next sugar high. I'm like, I keep getting chocolate. What's wrong with me?
Exactly. So we have to fix this from a bottom up perspective. Not
Absolutely.
it's not just a mindset and necessarily dynamic. Um, we can use the body to impact the mind and we can use the mind to impact the body. When we use the mind to impact the body, it's called top down processing. It's what we do in therapy. When we use the body to impact the mind, it's called bottom up work. A lot
Mhm.
of the new research in trauma nowadays shows that we want to use the body to get to the mind. So we want to calm down the body, therefore the mind will follow because we don't have that much access to the mind as we do to the body, right? I
Right.
can take a few deep breaths and my body will become more relaxed, but there's nothing I can do to my mind in a second to make it more relaxed, right?
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
So this has been, I think, monumental in the world of trauma. The past decade or two has really focused on this. I've created a course called
To
Regulate to Rise. It's an
rise. Yes, I saw
Mhm.
that. Listen, I am excited. Tell me about it. I interrupt you with excitement because you have to treat me, you have to teach me, and you have to train me because I believe you've created the tool that I need to add to my work. I believe I can't help anyone with business strategy. I can't help anyone with career strategy or any of their life goals if I can't help them regulate because that will always bring them right back to where they started.
Correct. I do a lot of executive coaching. So I speak to CEOs of different companies that come and say, for example, I'm in a meeting. I promised myself I'm just going to stay calm. And then the next thing I know, I'm yelling at everyone in the boardroom.
Yes.
Um, And can you imagine how much shame that because it's one thing when you don't know what you're doing is wrong and you just do it
Gosh.
and you don't care, but
Ignorance is
when you
bliss.
know what exactly, but when you know what you're doing is wrong and you've received feedback from it, but you can't stop, kind of like the person who wants to diet but they can't. I think that's the worst of the worst feelings for
Yes,
humans
yes, yes,
because you start like resenting yourself and
yes,
hating yourself and your inner critic becomes more and more pronounced, right?
yes.
So many things have to go into this dynamic. Compassion has to go in, learning to quiet that self critic, learning to approach yourself differently, to forgive yourself for your flaws because we all have them. I am yet to see a human being. I counted a while back. I've sat down for, I think, over 12,000 people at this point. I am yet to meet someone without a number of flaws, myself included. I think I have
Mhm.
more than anybody else I can think of. It's just
Yes,
impossible.
it
And
is.
who even these are flaws. Maybe this is what makes us unique. Maybe this is what makes us special. I think I like people who get angry quick because I feel like there's a lot of passion
Me
underneath it. I feel
too. Yes. I love
they're
people who use
genuine.
their body, who use their voice inflection to express emotion. I love
Yeah,
it. I don't,
exactly.
people are so offended and frightened. I'm like, oh, hey, now I get to see the real you. I'm learning about you and I'm experiencing you and your passion, what makes you really act excited. Whether it seems like it's negative, it's not. It's you telling me who you truly, what you feel inside. And I just want to experience whether you're using your quiet voice or your louder voice. No judgment. Oh, that's disrespectful. You just stop someone from, I don't know, you can have a connection. I can tell you, well, I can't regulate when you're loud at the top of your voice and ask
Mm.
you to support me with bringing down the volume, but I still will allow you space to express your frustration. And maybe we can learn now new ways of dealing with it, but tell us about it because if it's not needed girl, I love you.
This has been a very pleasant
Yes,
conversation for me too.
yes. I'm saying, I mean, rise to regulate to rise. Why is it regulation is definitely a missing link in our entire awareness for real sustainable change? Why is it?
Because I think up until now, we were under the impression that we can control this with our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, oh, you want to be, I don't know, more kind, just be more kind to people. But how can I, when my body is fighting that, when I want to like step forward and something inside of me is pulling me back, obviously rooted in trauma and my life experience and everything else. But these are unprocessed, unresolved actions in our psyche that have remained stuck. And what we need to do is we bring movement back to them so they can go through the movements and get processed and get released. I don't ever think as humans we get to a point that we're no longer reactive to something that has truly hurt us. I always give people this example.
Mm,
I've been in a really bad car accident, had major trauma to my face and head. Till this day, I have scars. This part of my head is completely numb. Will there ever be a day that this is not the case anymore? I don't think so, because I have to carry the residual impact of this trauma that I've endured, right?
mm-hmm.
So our psyche is the equivalent to our body. We never, like, if I've lost someone who's very dear to me. There will never come a day that I think, okay, they're dead, they're dead. No, it doesn't happen that way, right?
Right.
That will forever kind of trigger something in me, will bring up emotions in me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem is this society, especially the Western world. I am very much rooted in the Eastern culture because I'm Persian. So I come from this background that emotions are okay. They're very much welcomed. I remember as a little girl when I would bring people to my house, my American friends would always say, "Why are you guys just yelling at each other?" I'm like, "We're not yelling. This is how we speak to each other. Like we're just very
I might be
passionate
Persian
in
too.
expressing
Just stand outside my
like this is
sister's
how
house
we
when we're
speak to
all
each
there.
other."
It's loud. Like you hear us out. You would always think we're arguing. It's just the way we talk. And it gets louder when we're excited
Exactly.
and happy.
And Rumi, in one of his poems, which is one of my favorite parts of his work, talks about being a human is a guest house. At any moment, a
Mm,
different emotion comes up. It could be anger, it could be
yes, I love it.
anxiety. And then he says, welcome them all as if they're a guide from beyond,
Exactly.
trying to kind of clean your house for the next thing that's about to come. But in the Western
They
culture,
shame you
we
for it.
stigmatize
Yes.
emotions.
Yes.
You're angry, you're depressed, you're anxious. Anxiety is the best alert in our body. I have
Yes,
a
it's
test tomorrow.
true.
I have to be anxious, so I study. What is wrong
If
with
I
that? If I
don't,
if
then
I'm
I
not
would
anxious,
just
I
go
won't
to
study.
bed,
I won't
watch
pass the test.
movies. Yes. Yes.
But they all have a bad rep, and we haven't learned how to navigate our emotions. We don't know how to relate to them. We don't know how to feel them. We don't know how to express them. That's why we have issues with our communication. That's why we
Yes.
store all these pent up emotions in our body. They never get released.
Mm,
And I think that's the culprit.
yes.
If I had one goal in my life, it would be for our schools to, instead of teaching children, not that, they're not all effective. But instead of having children go through all these math, science,
Come
reading, this and that,
on.
teach them a course for emotion regulation. I
Yes.
think all these school shootings would, kind of go down drastically. I think our
Yes.
community will become a better place. People will relate to each other better. We will communicate better with each other. None
Exactly.
of us know how to do this even as adults.
So my prediction is it's going to have to happen. I
I hope so.
created uh, found a program that's called Foundations of Mindset Mastery, and it's basically with the premise to teach what I just told you, which is heal, clarity on purpose, and creating. And that for me, I want in the schools. So I believe
Mhm,
that our work will extend past this because it's I guess if I was ever going to have a political career of any, it would just be to rise up and speak to world leaders and politicians and say, here's what we need in our education. Our future depends on it. But my prediction is, Dr. Jalali, is that once AI gets busy taking up so many
mhm.
industries and we don't have work, we won't have anything but ourselves to look at in the mirror. And that's when the healing will begin.
That's a good
I
point.
hate to say it that way, but I said what I said. But here's the thing that I would love for you to help us, empower us right now to own
Mhm,
our own regulation. And as you said, own our own voice, own our
mhm,
expressions of our feelings and emotions. One of the things I've been practicing in the last just a few years, not very long, and I just had a moment. I like to ask for feedback.
mhm,
But when I allow myself the permission. I've given myself permission to feel my emotions and feel them at 100% because many of them are just what they are, emotions, and they are what I'm feeling and expressing, as you would say, part of where I've come from, my view of the world, where I am, all that wonderful thing. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. So let's be clear. So I know that, and I say the problem meaning that if I am the problem, then I am also the solution. So if I say you're the problem, then I will wait for you to give me the solution. And that's my mindset of how
mhm,
I'm approaching my life. So if I'm in a room and I'm experiencing certain things, for example, in a corporate experience, I was experiencing a series of mistreatment and nothing. I guess sometimes I'm able to let people just be themselves and I keep moving. But when I see other people being mistreated, now it's compounded and I must say something.
mhm,
And so I owned my voice and I spoke up against it. And now when I'm speaking against things that I'm not in alignment with, I am not the one you get here on the podcast. I'm not yelling and I'm not demeaning, but I'm just as articulate, only with a louder voice. And I'm intense in the way I look at you. And if it's a room, I will give everyone direct eye contact and my
mhm,
body, and you can see the passion. And so I said what I had to say. Room was still. No one challenged me. And after the fact, I know for that room of people, they have number one, never seen me that way. And number two, I know that in the corporate space, it's not allowed unless you are in charge. And if you're not in
mhm,
charge, how dare you? So there were people who were so grateful that I spoke up. And um, someone said to me, a colleague, I said, "What was your experience of my delivery?" Well, I will tell you right now, if I were the supervisor or something, I would have a conversation with you. I said, "Well, too bad. We're contract people here. No, nobody's
mhm,
nobody's in charge. We're collaborating for this work. This is why I'm not a W-2 employee in most of anything I do." And I said, "Why would that be, though?" Because his experience is his experience. He
mhm.
said, "Well, nothing was wrong with what you said. It's your tone." I said, "Okay, I can
Uh,
respect that. Anything else you can share?" And I said, "I thank you for your feedback. I'll tell you, but if I did it again, nothing would change because my tone is mine. And if it makes people uncomfortable, it's probably a reflection of their own world and how they've traveled life. But what I would tell you is this: I will not be silenced. And I will not be silenced, meaning that whoever I am is going to show up. And I give myself
yeah,
permission because the goal is not to be loved, liked, or even respected. The goal is to have my experience and be free within myself and outside myself. And then everything else will align for me. That's my thought. So if you want to share a bit on how we can so to speak, own our own voice and our regulatory processes so that we can really rise and be the leader of our own lives and just have a great time living this experience, because all the other things will fail, but we will have to remain with ourselves.
Yes, I think what you're referring to is this notion of, to say it very in everyday language, being comfortable in your own skin.
Mm,
Most of us live life with masks that society accepts or that pleases other people or that makes us popular or that makes us accepted by societal norms. And to unleash who we are underneath is very scary. I think we're seeing a big movement with this in the younger generation. If you notice, they're very expressive with their
yes.
looks, with the way they, dress or the way they do their hair, or
Yes.
if they're artists, the type of piercings or
Do
tattoos they
whatever.
put on their body.
Yeah.
It's very expressive. And I think that's a result of having lived in a community that suppresses our unique sense of self. Now, I think we have to find that middle ground
Yes.
where I get to be who I am
Hmm.
without an excessive need to express it to
I
everybody else.
agree.
Because when I'm truly in my essence, then I'm
You don't
comfortable
have
in
to
who I am.
overcompensate. You don't have to infringe on
Exactly.
anybody else's well being and their space and their learning and their safety more than
Absolutely.
anything else. Right.
Absolutely. So I think it's a process. As a community, we're working towards it, but the more individuals can give themselves a space. And this requires, by the way, a lot of courage. The first thing it requires is courage because
Hmm.
you feel like you're going to be an outcast if you do
Yeah.
this.
I know.
I've even talked to people where they say, I don't know, like let's say they're in a relationship and they say, my wife or my husband wants me to do this and I hate to do it. And I said, well, have you ever
Told
told
them,
them you hate to do it?
right.
No. Why would I tell them that we're going to fight? It's going to make them upset. So this is how much we shrink ourselves in order
To be
to
in
fit into the
relationships.
world
Yes. Yes.
or, in any shape or form, whether we're an employee or a partner or, a neighbor, however you want to look at it.
Yes.
So I think societally, we all have to take that first step to truly see our own authentic self and realize this is a journey and most people can't do it on their own. You need a guide to kind of hold your hand or hold a light so you can go in your own darkness and see your own authentic self
Yes.
and then develop the courage to live it.
Right.
And once you do, I think we all become better companions. We all become less resentful. We all become better members of society, potentially more productive ones, and the
Hmm.
world will become a better place. But as much as I like to advocate for this, to tell you the truth, if I'm giving you my honest opinion, I think from a societal perspective, we're far away from it
I
still.
agree.
But every individual that takes steps in that direction gets us closer to it.
Gets us closer. I agree. And again, I am very much guided by a time, a place, and the time and place and the timing. Timing, what you say, how you say it, when you say it is very much guided. And then there are some environments where I would say the full you and all of you is not warranted because, I mean, show up in authenticity, but
Correct.
the only people who have access to all the colors of my individual rainbow is the people who are
Is you.
closest, right? And even, I mean, I am still exploring what my individual rainbow is,
Exactly.
right? I'm like, where did, like sometimes I'm amazed at the thoughts in my head, good, bad, ugly, and in between without giving it necessarily a judgment. I'm like, what? Girl, you're so smart. Wow, where did that come from? Is that from your mom? Is that your dad? And I start digging because I'm psychoanalytic at times. But again, you like in some environment, I tell people it doesn't mean you are not being yourself only because you didn't
Correct.
bring this self with you to this environment. Because that self is not going to be productive in this environment. So leave that self
Correct.
here. So allow yourself when you step into a room to step in authenticity authenticity, but see which parts of you will do good, be good, and be productive, not just for you, but the people who are there. And in that exchange, they're friends. I have friends, and we have different levels, and we all do. So same thing. So there's work, Dr. Jalali. There's work with clients, Dr. Jalali, and there's work with staff, Dr. Jalali, and there's work with her, her funders and her, you know what I'm saying, stakeholders. So it's not that you're different. It's just the layers and the levels of access that you allow to who you are. But the goal for me is always being so in touch and honoring your true, your feelings and your thoughts. The one thing I would love for you to do with us is walk us through your Regulate to Rise framework and how it works.
Absolutely. So, Regular to Rise is an 8 module course, and it talks about every module focuses on one particular domain. So, things from nervous system regulation exercises that are focused on the mind, on the soul, on the body, and how they kind of guide you through doing practices, adapting practices that you can incorporate in your everyday life. Very short, kind of accessible 1 to 5 minute techniques that can help you reset your nervous system. Because when you wake up in the morning, let's say you have a meeting and you wake up already 10 minutes late and you're rushing. And as you go rush through this, you spill coffee all over your white shirt, and then you're driving, and then you almost have a near accident. So your day hasn't started yet, but your nervous system has already surpassed its level of functionality. And
Yes.
now you have to have techniques to bring yourself back, which, to tell you the truth, are very intuitive, simple techniques. These aren't like life changing, go do this exercise and you're going to be, different. There's simple things like stopping, like breathing, like walking, like
Mm.
having a sensory experience that's different from what you're sensing. But learning to identify your alerts of your nervous system and reducing them or increasing them when necessary to keep you in that optimal zone of performance versus operating constantly from zones that contradict with your productivity.
I love it. So, in the form of regulation and psychology, when does someone or when does medical treatment usually decides that to help someone regulate, medication should be a part of it?
So, I obviously have my personal opinion on this. I do feel like we live in a nation that we like very quick fixes to stuff. You're depressed, take a pill. You're anxious, take a pill. You're, I don't know, hyperactive, take a pill. And I think there is a time and a place for these things. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
As a practitioner in the mental health field, I've seen people find immense relief from medications from time to time. And I think if we have someone who's truly assessing, not just wanting to treat with meds, there is a time and there is a place for them. And when they are truly, um, kind of following that right path, they can be immensely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe, and this is just my personal opinion, you need to exhaust your options before you want to, unless like you see someone having a psychotic break
Right.
and it's, rooted in obviously uh, something in their psyche not functioning well. Obviously, you want to intervene with meds, right?
Right.
But if someone has mild anxiety, my personal preference is, well, start doing some life changing routines, see to what extent you can get it under control.
Mm-hmm.
And if it gets to a point that you feel like, no, this is very debilitative, it's not letting me function, then start taking the steps towards medicating it. But I think that's another side of our society where
We need to.
we don't have a lot of patience. We
Mhm.
want to get things done really
We
quick
don't
and we
want
want to see fast
quick
results.
fixes.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Quick question on that though. What are your comments about the use of psychedelics for healing traumatic experience?
this has been a very big topic in our field
Mm-hmm.
over the past decade, I want to say. A lot of people are gravitating towards it. Lots of people really like it. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I feel like
Me
what
too.
I personally don't like about it is when people do this, it's not always in a clinical setting. It's not always done by a professional. It's not
Right.
always done in a therapeutic dynamic. People just take it into their own hands and say, "Oh, I'm microdosing and I'm feeling so much better." I mean,
You're gonna
n-
micro
uh,
and you're gonna keep those macros going because after a while, you gotta do the
Plus,
work.
having worked in this field, I've seen a lot of psychedelics kind of unleash sometimes components in the psyche that for whatever reason you don't have access to in that moment. And that's what people like about
Oh
it.
my
But
goodness,
what
just
people don't
regular
realize
inhibitors
is
do
that
that. Yeah.
that can go either way.
Mhm.
Like you can unleash a lot of anxiety, you can unleash a psychotic break. I remember I had a patient who was stuck in a trunk of a tree for many, many years because of psychedelics. And then you would talk to them, they were hospitalized, you would talk to them, they would say, "Yeah, it's very like nice in this tree this morning." They couldn't get out of it because their mindset
It's in a tree.
had
Wow.
so these things can really have a lot of serious side effects that I don't think people are always aware of. My suggestion to whoever wants to, partake in this journey is definitely find a professional who's really well versed in it, and please don't take it upon yourself to kind of guide yourself through this journey, and make sure that you are very informed about it and going about it in a way that's productive for you.
I absolutely love it. I would love for you to tell our listeners and viewers, Dr. Jalali, a little bit more about what we can expect. I haven't gotten my copy yet of the book, which is it is much of a surprise to me because usually I get it before. Um, but tell us a little bit more about your book and what can we expect about reading The Fire That Makes Us? Because I'm telling you, have I been burned? Have I been burned? And I've been made through fire, and I believe it's been refining. And strangely enough, it was refreshing when I became the next level, the next version of myself. So tell us about that.
Yes, the book has a very special place in my heart for your listeners. It's actually based on a traumatic event that I endured in my own life. And so the person in the story that I write about, her name is Charlotte. She's a fictional character, but her trauma is partly based on what I've experienced and partly on the relational drama that I've seen in my patients over the years. So I start telling Charlotte's story, and at the end of each chapter, I stop and I explain the psychological component associated with that part of the story. So the book is 20 chapters of 20 main dichotomies in life that we all kind of struggle with. And I've tried to fit each in one chapter through Charlotte's story because I feel like that becomes more relatable for people when they're, reading someone's story that they can kind of see in themselves. And then I guide our readers on how to embrace that, how to, kind of work through it when you're dealing with that challenge.
Mm,
And because it's partly based on my own life experience, obviously it has a lot of emotional value for me.
I love it. I can't wait to read it. And it's available wherever books are sold, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, you can order it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, all major bookstores carry
Did
it.
you do the
Yes.
audiobook yet?
I haven't. It's part of my to-do list for
Yes.
2026. But last year was a very big year for me. There was a lot happening. So I didn't get a chance to go forward with that, but it's
That's
definitely
coming,
something
that's
I want to
coming.
do.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome, I can tell already.
Thank
I
you.
love it. So we have flipped the script. It's a segment where we go through something that brings us a little closer, and you personally, that required a pivot to in your life. If was there a moment in your own life, Dr. Delali, where trauma forced an identity shift for you, where survival stopped working and something had to change? What was that moment?
I think it's when I lost all my resources
Mm.
and I thought, well, what now? And it made me go inward and have to find resources and tap into resources that I potentially had, but wasn't necessarily in contact with in that moment. So, Rumi again says the wound is where the light enters the body. When you break, you also break open.
Yes.
And if you just allow yourself to sit in that without bringing a lot of judgment to the negativity of that moment, there's always something
Mhm.
positive in it for you.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes it feels like there's absolutely zero positive in this for me, and it's just pain. But that just means you haven't felt the pain deep enough, I think.
Wow. So after doing deep healing work, how did you define success differently now?
I don't think I am at a place where I can claim I define things very differently. I think it's a work in progress for me. If anything, I've just learned to catch myself when I'm going down a path that doesn't feel true to me. I think I still fall into the same traps. I'm only human,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, not individuated enough to be able to detach
Sure.
from, kind of societal dynamics
Yes.
that I believe bring pleasure to me. But I think the only thing I'm able to do is be more authentic about it. So I know where my breaks are, and I know when to push them, and I'm not afraid to use it when I have to.
Oh, I love it. Exactly. And awareness is always key. Having, say, two of the main things I would say for me is the awareness and to continuously build a toolbox and adding tools that help me navigate those misfires or pitfalls and healing and regulating. I will use that. I know my sister, she is a therapist and she used the word so much, a lot, a lot, a lot. I can't wait for her to listen to this episode. So I love to leave listeners with something practical. We do a segment called Mindset Bites to Go. So I want to do it a little bit different with you, which will leave a
Mhm.
little bit more practical insight into your work and what you teach. So I'm going to do some rapid fire questions for you for this one. So are you ready, Dr. J?
Uh,
All right.
Hit me.
What's one sign someone may be operating from silent trauma without realizing it?
They're hyper vigilant.
Mm.
So their responses to their surroundings are different, more pronounced, or less pronounced than everybody else around
Oh,
them, essentially.
wow. So it can be more pronounced or less pronounced,
Or
equally,
less,
equally,
yes.
wow, significant. Wow. What's,
Like children who've been neglected, if you're yelling at them or if you're, kind of being forceful with them, they don't cry, they don't have a negative reaction.
ah,
That's the
that's the
opposite of.
hypervigilance. Very, very well.
That's a hypovigilance. So they're not even responding. They're on the opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah.
It's deep. What's one daily practice to begin nervous system regulation?
Breathing, breathing, breathing.
Hmm.
I cannot tell you how many times after all these years of training, I find myself holding my breath every day.
Yeah. Keep.
And I just allow myself to take a deep inhale or exhale, whatever it is that I'm holding on to that I don't want anymore. You know how in real estate they say location, location, location? I would say in nervous system regulation, it's
Breathing,
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 breathing, breathing.
breathing. Yes, I see my sister doing that, and she has a way she'll tell us because as a family we went through some traumatic things together, and when she sees it popping up for one of us, she's like, "You're dysreg." Oh no, it's still there. You're dysregulating. Just breathe, just breathe. And the one thing I love is watching that all of us we're not resisting it anymore. When she says just breathe, and then we
You do
also are
it.
able to tell her, you need to just breathe. It's so much fun.
See, you're healing as a community.
So that's the best gift you can get as a person who's pursuing
Absolutely.
your healing or continuously, allowing yourself to heal is when your community, you can include as many people in your community. This is why you have to share this episode. Last question for you, Dr. J, is what's one mindset reframe people stuck in people pleasing or perfectionism can use right now?
When people want to please other people, it's rooted in the notion that they think, I won't be loved if I
Hmm.
don't please them. So I would say the mindset shift that you need is I am loved because I'm a human and I have value.
Whew, love
That
it.
could be a mantra that you can repeat to yourself 100 times a day
Ooh. I am loved because I'm a
because I'm a
human
human
being
and I have value.
and I have value. Human and I have value. So easy. Just take that and let that play so much time consciously that it becomes a subconscious programming for you. I can't wait. Someone just let us know, reach out to Dr. Shahrzad and let her know that transformed your life. I know I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it because there are times when you just have to know. Can you, Dr. Jalali, tell everyone where they can connect with you, learn more about Regulate to Rise, your amazing book, and just stay close to your work?
Yes, and they can definitely find us on our website, drshahrzadjalali.com. Run weekly informative clips on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. You can find me either under Align Remedy, which is the name of one of our clinics here, or Dr. Jalali. I'm hoping to bring more good things your way, and I'm planning some exciting new adventures for next year that I hope everyone can partake in.
That's awesome, and I would love to have you back again on the
I
podcast.
would love to be back. I
Yes.
really enjoyed our
Yes.
talk
It
today.
went by so quickly. So we have to talk some more and then, of course, keep in touch with what you have going on. My goodness, Dr.
Absolutely.
Jalali, thank you so much. This conversation is a reminder that healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about carrying it differently so it no longer runs the show. If today's episode resonated with you, it's because awareness is knocking, and awareness is always the first step toward transformation. Please look in the description wherever you're listening or watching to this episode, and you can connect directly with Dr. Jalali and her team and the amazing work she's doing. Get a copy of the book and let her know that you heard her here on Mindset Mastery Moments. Dr. Jalali, thank you so much for your depth, your honesty, and your leadership to all of us here.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here today.
To our listeners, remember, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. We'll see you on the next episode of Mindset Mastery Moments. Bye now. That was